All right, welcome everybody. So a couple things is Chrissy is going to be following the chat. So if you've got any questions, feel free to throw them in there. But I'm going to answer a couple questions that we get every time anyways, which is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. Will it be posted? It is a lot of our webinars are posted in the membership, but not on YouTube. This one will be posted on both YouTube and in the webinar section of the membership. Now, in the membership, if you go right below where you see the video, it'll say download. That is not, just a reminder, that does not download the video. What that does, I love Karen because she's going to give us all of her notes. Okay. She's going to give us all of her notes. So when you go to the video and you click download, what it's going to do is download, I don't know, 4 or 5 page PDF of all of her notes and a worksheet that she's going to give you today too. So yes, it's being recorded. Yes, it'll be on YouTube. But if you go to the membership and you want all the notes, those are going to be in there as well. Karen, can I make a little announcement?
Absolutely.
Are you okay with this? I would like to welcome Karen to the Cultivate Wins family. And I am so excited. Karen and I are not new to each other. We've certainly worked together before, but she knows she's a go-to resource for me. She's someone I respect at the highest level in this industry as both a professional and just as good humans. Okay. And she can give you her background and everything else like that. But she's been in the industry over 30 years. And the fact that we get to work together again is my jam all day long. I'm so excited about it. And I will tell you this is where Karen kind of blows me away. She's got great background in so many areas. So if you are needing help in the ops area, you're needing help on the leadership area, she has definitely trained and coached agents and new agents and systems. And she's been the right-hand person of a very large brokerage and done amazing things there. So Karen, can I say that the topic you chose, I know you didn't choose it because of me, but you're so speaking to my heart, it's not even funny. You know, I have a couple keywords that are huge to me, and grace would be one of those. So where did this topic come from?
Yeah, so necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Got it. You got it. I love it.
Yeah, and even with over 30 years in the same industry, I get overwhelmed also. And I think there's a lot of tools and a lot of resources and places we can go for a lot of things in this business. And this just was an area that I wasn't finding what I needed to help me. Okay. So, we'd been in conversation and, talking about putting something together, and this topic just spoke to me because I know I for sure could have used this. So
yeah, and I know that we have over 50 people that registered, and a lot of times we don't get a lot of registers until the week of. So Chrissy had posted that we were going to be doing this webinar even prior to when Nicole had done hers the previous time here, and it was immediate. People were signing up for it immediately, and I'm like, wow, Karen, I didn't expect, us to see, people jumping on this until a couple days prior. And you're like, it's a topic, it's needed. It's just absolutely, It's a topic that we don't hear and it's not talked about enough. But what is your actual title so that we can kind of really focus in on that?
For sure. So actual title for the webinar is 3 strategies to overcome your overwhelm with grace.
Okay, so overcome, I heard 3 words in there: overcome, overwhelm, and grace. Overcome, overwhelm, and grace. And just those 3 being in the topic, I could see why people jumped all over that very, very quickly. And I'm just grateful that you're willing to dive into that. I'm going to mute myself and step aside because I want to take some notes as well. But I want to thank you for being willing to jump into this topic specifically, because it is not something that we see. It's easy and it's everywhere that we can just find. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And, it's just so needed. And saying we need it feels vulnerable also. And that's not always comfortable for us either. So like I said, with over 30 years in the same industry, always residential real estate, I know a lot, and I still struggle with becoming overwhelmed, and I still have to be really purposeful with putting strategies in place to help myself not go back into it. So like I had mentioned, this webinar really came out of necessity, and this is what helped me. And my hope is that it helps someone else. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I know we're going into a long weekend, and I didn't want to just fluff this up. So I will be super respectful of everyone's time, and perhaps you'll even end up with a little bit of time at the end, bonus time in your day, that maybe you can start to put some of these strategies into practice for yourselves. So let's dive in. 3 strategies to overcome your overwhelm with grace. And I think first we need to start by naming your overwhelm in your role for what it really is: job security. Right? When you're overwhelmed in your role, it's because you have a lot to do. It doesn't always feel good. It can steal our joy. It's also essential to see the positive in it. I believe it's within the positive mindset that true growth and purpose happens. One of my favorite quotes is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I'm going to say it slower. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when we change the way we look at our overwhelm, it can change how it looks to us too. And oftentimes the weight of it can be lightened. Okay, so if we look at the overwhelm in our role as job security, that in and of itself, that mindset shift can shift our overwhelm from feeling heavy, burdensome, like it's too much, a dumping ground, chaotic, those heavy words that feel negative to us. When we shift our mindset around overwhelm, the words may more closely resemble trustworthy, capable, knowledgeable, resourceful, organized, right? There's significantly less heavy words and more positive words. Often our feelings of overwhelm stem from having a lot to do, which, like I said, can feel negative. So if we change the way we look at it, and we look at overwhelm through the eyes of compassion for ourselves and those around us, a lot to do means you've earned trust in your role. You're knowledgeable, you're capable and resourceful. Someone or many someones know that they can rely on you to get the job done. That's great. You're doing a great job. Now let's grow and work through the overwhelm. This topic's important. All my years in the same industry, I still battle it. And I have to be really purposeful about my mindset around the overwhelm and the feelings that come with it too. So when you teach something, you learn it differently. I will benefit from talking through these strategies with you just as much as I'm hoping you guys will benefit from this as well. Like David mentioned, we'll have graphics. I'll share my notes. I have a little worksheet that might be helpful as you kind of think about working through the overwhelm. What I really want you to make sure you take away from this is you're not alone. We have a great community here. We have people who care, people who can relate. We need to tap into that and become vulnerable, with our overwhelmed feelings. Everyone feels overwhelmed at times and for different reasons, and it can help us grow. So I like to look at the analogy of a balloon. So if you pull a balloon out of a bag and you blow it up and you let the air out, the balloon never goes back to that original size again. I think that's what our overwhelm can do. It can stretch us, it can push us, and once we've worked through it, we never go back to how we were before. We've grown and we've learned. So it stretches us for sure. It's uncomfortable and it's sometimes painful. And in the end, the goal is to learn from it and grow. And sometimes we fail forward. It can also increase our capacity when we learn to work through it compassionately and with grace for ourselves and for those around us. So let's dive into the strategies. Strategy number 1 is simply to breathe. Accept where you are, you're overwhelmed. And as we wind ourselves up in the overwhelm, it's easy to forget the power of the breath. This is the first step to grace. There are loads of breathing exercises and meditations. And when you are in overwhelm, even those can feel overwhelming or add to the overwhelm. So keep it simple. Even if you start by simply breathing in and just say to yourself, in, out, out. Deep cleansing breaths. Breathing can help us exit the merry-go-round of our thoughts, which is the first thing we need to do to overcome our overwhelm gracefully. We need to step off the ride. And that even can be hard, but if you can get your mind calmed, get your body calmed through breathing, you'll be able to think more clearly. Okay, strategy 2 is to step out of isolation. Reaching out for help is not easy for most of us. However, it's one of the most compassionate things we can do for ourselves. We're not meant to carry the loads we're carrying, let alone carry them by ourselves. Overwhelm grows in our own minds if it's not let out. If you're like me, your thoughts will spiral. One thought grows and it morphs into 2 and it morphs into 5. It's a vicious circle, and around and around we go like that merry-go-round. We need to talk to someone or several someones. Oftentimes just talking through your feelings will help you find clarity, even if the person you're talking to doesn't provide direct help. This doesn't have to be someone in your field. That said, it's certainly beneficial if it's someone who has an understanding of your role and your responsibilities, who can talk through your feelings with you from a familiar perspective. Like I'd mentioned, this community is great. Lean on the people in this community, people in your office, your coach, just getting some of your thoughts out of your head, talking through your feelings, even just tapping someone on the shoulder and saying, hey, I'm feeling super overwhelmed. That even is a step towards gracefully getting yourself out of it. Another step is getting all of your overwhelm out of your head. So we're going to brain dump and get it all out. This step is really important. List everything. Even if you think it's insignificant, if it's taking up space in your brain, it deserves space on paper. Okay, you may be surprised to find the number of the things you're feeling overwhelmed about are repeated or similar tasks, and actually only deserve 1 spot instead of 5. Be sure to time block for this. And really allow yourself the space to think and get that overwhelm out of your head. Now, I'm not saying take an entire day. We need to move through our overwhelm efficiently. So start by giving yourself 15 or 30 minutes. Take a break, get some work done, then come back to it for another 15 or 30 minutes. There's a couple different strategies to brain dumping, different tools you can use. Certainly paper and pen work fine, digitally, kind of wherever you think best. And then look at the overwhelm written out. It can help begin that process of overcoming it. And we'll look through editing and organizing that in just a minute. So some other tools for brain dumping. So if you're a writer, like I like to write things out. I love the Good Notes app on my iPad with my Apple Pencil. I can cut and paste that into different buckets. I also like Monday.com. If you're a more digital person, I've used Trello for this as well. Really, a simple spreadsheet will work fine too. Kind of wherever you process best, that's where I would recommend you brain dump. And like I said, if it's taking up space in your brain, it deserves space on paper. Nothing is too small. Get it all out. Okay, we're shining a light on it. We're stepping out of isolation. I also, like I'd mentioned, we'll have that template graphic that you guys can use to kind of guide you through, give you some thoughts as you brain dump. So once we've brain dumped and we have all of our overwhelm on paper and we can see it, time for strategy number 3. We're going to organize it. So we're going to prioritize, organize, and refine the overwhelm. This also really important step. When we're in overwhelm, everything feels urgent. So to help us determine what takes priority, we're going to look at your goals. Does your overwhelm align with your goals? Look at your mission, vision, values. Does it align with these? Does your overwhelm serve to provide peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, or compassion for yourself or others? If the answer is no to any of these items, I would recommend you interrogate that item and whether it belongs on your list or in a bucket at all. So we can look at these a little bit closer. So does your overwhelm align with your mission, vision, and values? It is possible that some of the things you're feeling overwhelmed about just don't deserve the space they're taking up in your brain. So does it align with your mission, vision, and values? If not, slide those items off your list. Does it align with your team's or your goals and objectives? Again, totally possible that some of the things you're feeling overwhelmed about just don't deserve the space that they're taking up. And again, the answer is no, I would slide them off your list. Does your overwhelm serve you or others peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion? Again, if the answer is no, does that item belong on your list? Then look at your items and can any of them be grouped together? Sort of think in terms of buckets. And I suggest no more than 3 buckets. Categorize your buckets. Again, the sheet that I have has some suggestions on it. And then further prioritize those buckets. So once you have your overwhelm listed out, you have it kind of segmented into some buckets, you've removed some things, you found some duplicates, then you can look at each of those buckets and prioritize the items in each bucket. So if you're still feeling a level of overwhelm or you're having a hard time prioritizing those, take a step back, go for a walk, take a break, listen to a podcast, breathe. Sometimes coming back, even if it's just after 15 minutes with fresh eyes, will provide clarity. If you work for or with someone, talk through your lists with them. What do they see as priorities? Be sure your list is bullet pointed and clean. Most leaders are high Ds and have short attention spans. Have compassion for them when asking for their input. Talk through your list with your coach. Talk through your list with a coworker, an office person, someone in a similar role. Get input from others on help with prioritizing if you're having a hard time. Then conquer your overwhelm. Time block for your bucket and honor that time. David has a wonderful class on time blocking in your calendar. That's worth space in one of your buckets if you haven't done it yet. And look at your list also. Can anything get done quickly? Like less than 5 minutes? Can any of your things get done? Crossing items off can fuel you to keep going and moving through your list. So then get to work on your highest priorities first. And is anything on your overwhelm list repeated? Do you need to create a system for it? Can it be delegated or leveraged or automated? So really look at those items because perhaps you deal with that item now, you build a system, you add some automation in, and then that's not a topic or an item that becomes overwhelming to you again. So really, in short, we all feel overwhelmed. Be kind to yourself. Overwhelm breeds in silence. You are not alone. Get it out of your head, brain dump your overwhelm, get it onto paper, organize that chaos into buckets and prioritize it, and then get to work on it. So those are the strategies that helped me get through my overwhelm period of time. So I wanted to kind of do a progress report, if you will, on where I'm at now and what am I doing now to prevent myself from getting back onto that merry-go-round ride of overwhelm growing in my head. So keeping overwhelm at bay. Like I mentioned, like my iPad with my GoodNotes app, I write things down. As I'm in meetings, I'm writing down things that I need to do or things that people need. If it takes less than 5 minutes, I'll have a chunk of time. I can just bust through a bunch of those things, cross them off. If it's anything that is lingering or a bigger project or something that takes more time, I then transfer it into my monday.com, where I have different buckets for different areas of the business. And I just keep moving through it. So I found that staying ahead of my overwhelm, I'm hoping that will prevent me from getting stuck like I was a few months ago. So I also utilize a version of David's email management class. So if you haven't done that, that's super helpful. There's nothing worse than looking at an inbox with, for me, my number is 50. So I can have 50 emails in my inbox. David's probably cringing. But for me, those are things that need to stay top of mind for me. Everything else gets filed away. My goal is like 25, but I allow myself some grace. And because a lot of things feel important to me, even though they may not be super critical. So I allow myself that room to not have 0 in my inbox. So that also becomes a management tool for overwhelm. And I would be remiss if I did not mention move your body. Exercise, whatever that means to you, is mission critical for this also. Go for a walk, go to the gym, do a video, whatever it is, move your body. It will help you immensely also. So that is what I've got. Like I said, I was going to keep it short and sweet. I don't think we need to overthink all of this.
Okay, so one thing, Karen, thank you, Chrissy, by the way, is Chrissy went ahead and quickly just grabbed one of the resources that you're going to be providing, which is that example that you were talking about. Put it down on paper, get it out of your head. Does it deserve that space? So put it on paper, divide it into buckets. So if you don't mind, I do have some questions for you, but I want you to know, you knew I was excited about this topic. So I want you to hear a little bit of, this is the first time I've heard you speak in full on this. So I want to point out a couple of things that you just said that resonated with me immediately. And then I've got a couple questions for you. Number one, I love that you pointed out, and it's how you started. This isn't about whether you are in your current role, in your current industry or anything for a year. And because it's a year, you're new and you're feeling overwhelmed. First thing you started with, I've been in this industry for over 30 years and I still can get overwhelmed. Okay. Welcome to life. Okay.
Yep.
So this isn't just about when I'm in it longer, I will be able to know how to deal with the overwhelm. Dealing with overwhelm is a different topic. It is its own topic. It's not about how long you've been in an industry and how much expertise you have. You can have all the expertise in the world. That doesn't mean you know how to manage everything in the world at one time either. So I loved that you just started by saying that. Don't be impressed with basically 30 years. I still get overwhelmed. And I still have to work
For
on
sure.
skill sets, learnable skill sets to learn how to deal with those. So that was the first thing I heard. And I loved that you started with that. Because sometimes I think we put people on a pedestal. Well, they've been doing this forever. Of course they can manage it. No.
Yeah.
So don't put
Yeah.
yourself also falsely on a pedestal that you think you should be able to handle it because you've been doing something for a while. Dealing with overwhelm is a separate learnable skill set. Has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with your industry or who. We're talking about human nature here. It's a learnable skill set. Okay. So the first thing that you said that just, I'm like, yes, you go, girl. I liked that you said, name it. Okay. Now, granted, I'm into a lot into like Thich Nhat Hanh and different things like that. And I can read, I think I've got 17 of his books on my shelf, and I have read them all. And he kind of talks about that in meditation. Name it. It's not as if you're trying to go blank in meditation or anything like that. You're going to have stresses that come in. He said, just recognize it. Just name it. That's just step one. And that is self-awareness. When you had talked about, you said, breathe, accept where you are. I loved when you said that, accept where you are. That's just self-awareness. Being self-aware and honest. This is where I am. Just name it.
Yeah.
Said that.
It's being kind to yourself.
Yes. But then you also said, name it. But then you went on and said, change how you, change even how you talk about it. It's a mindset thing. And you can say that someone's upset with me or anything else like that. Or you can look at it and say, okay, they have high expectations of me because they trust me.
Yep.
Oh, that was such a great way when someone is speaking to you and you're feeling that stress, go, the reason why they're able to come at me that hard is because they actually think I'm all that in a bag of chips. That's actually a compliment that they're that feeling that way about me. So I loved that you did that. The other thing that I wanted to just say is you said it here, but I'm just going to mention it one more time, that when it actually hit me, it wasn't on this call. I have heard you say before is that think of yourself as a balloon, and overwhelm will stretch you. And when you have a balloon and you blow it up, when you let all that air out, it does not return to the same version of the balloon as when we started. It does look different. It is stretched out. We change and we grow through this overwhelm. And I've heard you say that analogy before, and that analogy never left me. I think it's an important one. So now my questions for you. And there's more points, but I don't want to keep talking here. I wrote down a lot of stuff. My question is this. When did this journey start for you? When did you realize that this was a separate learnable skill? And you actually, because to me, I constantly am talking about being willing to put the work in. Okay. So you didn't get to this and teach this because you didn't put the work in. I don't know if you went and you got help from someone. I don't know if you've read books, what it is, but you've put some work into understanding what it takes to learn this skill. When did that start for you? How long have you been doing that? And what are a couple of things that you would say are good resources for them to start with?
Yeah. So I wish I had like an epiphany moment that, oh, everything just clicked in my brain, because it wasn't that. I think it's just been years or decades of learning a lot of different things. Okay. And, like I mentioned it was just really a couple months ago, I just really found myself in this vicious circle and just feeling incredibly overwhelmed by all the things that had to get done. Yeah. And I just was really having a hard time. And then I had to get myself out of it because I couldn't find anything that was like, okay, yeah, here is just like this little thing. If you do this, this will help you. Like, here's this little tool. Yep. I couldn't find anything like this. So necessity being the mother of invention, I'm like, okay, I need to do something that's going to get me out of this. Yeah. And it started with talking to my team. Yeah. Hey, I took a mental health day, which I haven't done in I don't even know how long. I'm like, I just need to just breathe for a day. I just need to breathe. And kind of stepping out of that isolation with them was very helpful. Just that in and of itself. And so I'm like, okay, that's the first thing I needed to do. I needed to breathe.
Yep.
I needed to stop the spinning in my brain.
Yep.
And I needed to share with my team that, like, I love you and I love helping you. I love everything that I'm doing, and I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because both can happen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing in my brain dump was outside of the scope of my abilities or my knowledge.
Yep.
I could do it all.
Yeah.
And I was overwhelmed by it also.
Yeah.
So was really just working through that overwhelm for myself.
Yep.
And really looking at it and interrogating what I was overwhelmed about.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned was that some of the things I was overwhelmed about didn't deserve the space they were taking up in my brain.
That was another note.
So
I loved that phrase. That's good.
Yeah. And I think that's super common, because now as I reflect back on other times where I felt overwhelmed to whatever level, I look at what I was overwhelmed about and I think, geez, I really, like, half of those things really needed my attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned one other thing, as long as you're on this topic right here, is not only does everything deserve that attention that it's getting from us right now, but you also said something about, you said, how many of these things, because you kind of said two things, and I don't see these as mutually exclusive, but some people might confuse them. You said, kind of work on your big rocks, or the most important things, or whatever it is, the things that are the most important. Another thing that you said, though, is acknowledge that some of the things don't take that long and they can be done in 5 minutes. Okay. And so I think both of those are important. And I think some people look they hear some teachers say, just take care of the big rocks first, because they'll have the biggest impact for you, and then move down the line. And for me, the fact is some of those big rocks may take weeks, may take months, may take whatever. And I might get just burnt out and never make it to the end of that. I need something to keep me going. So I need to be able to, and this is what we do a lot of times on coaching calls too, is someone will tell me all the things that they're overwhelmed about. And I'm going to go, okay, this one, and this one, those are no big deal. And you're like, yeah, those are probably going to take me 3 to 4 weeks. Why do they need to take you more than 15 minutes is usually my question. Why does that need to take you more than 15 minutes? And you need to explain that to me. I'm not asking a passive question here. Why does that need to take more than 15 minutes? And they're like, what do you mean 15 minutes? That's not a 15-minute goal. Fine. Maybe I'm wrong. You need to explain to me why that's not a 15-minute task. I could force you to do that in 15 minutes right now. Okay. Now, once they see a different perspective, they're like, wait a minute, there's like 7 things I could knock out here. And that we have 2 weeks between coaching. And I'll say, here's the thing is, don't try to get all 7 of them done. Give me a break. You are superhuman. If you can get all 7 of them done, you're just a better human than I am. You're a freak of nature. Settle the frick down. Now, let me ask you, of those 3, which of those 3 can you do in 15 minutes or less now that we've talked about this? Okay. Next 2 weeks, if you get more than 3 of them done, seriously, you're a freak of nature. But I want you to text me as you get each one of those 3 done. It's taking something that people are overwhelmed. And you said some of those things are probably only 5-minute tasks. I think sometimes we make things bigger than what they are. Absolutely. And sometimes knocking out 3 or 4 of those little tasks, if we're honest that they really are little, give us that hope. Mm-hmm. That we don't have to stay in the overwhelm. So just the fact that you kind of talked about a couple of those are things that the next thing that you talked about that I want to bring up is you said, this is a beautiful community. Go talk to someone else. Sometimes it's someone else that can point out to you, you're just full of it. Not everything's a big thing. Sometimes you need someone else to point out for you. Come on, that one, and that one, you could knock those out. Probably if we hung up right now, you could probably take care of them in the next half hour. So I keep pointing out everything that you're saying because all of these are really resonating with me. So I really appreciate your approach on all of these types of things. And I've seen you do it in real time too. You talk about like this is a newer journey for you. I've worked with you. I've seen you over the years and everything else like that. You're naming it more. You're systematizing it more.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to teach it more. But to see you in real time, I'll call you out on one thing. You are always wanting to be there for everybody. I like that you're starting to recognize it's okay for you to take a mental health day and just walk away, but talk to them.
Yeah.
So I'd say that to the other people listening to this call. I love that she got to that stage that she is everybody's helper. Okay. Sometimes it's okay for her to go, you know what? I'm going to help me today. I'm going to take a mental health today. And those that don't know the policy, Chrissy, do we allow mental health days? Not just for
Definitely.
yeah, all the
We even
time.
have hooky days.
We have official 2 hooky days per month where you're allowed to just play hooky for work, not even for mental health. I don't care if you just want to go on a date. I don't care. We have 2 hooky days a month, and those do not count towards your vacation time or anything like that. But to me, that allows someone who's embarrassed to say, I need a mental health day. Fine, call it a hooky day. I could care less. Go take care of you. You're going to come back a better version for yourself and those that we are serving. See you later. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I just wanted to call out, there's so many things that you said there that resonate with me. It's crazy. And I really appreciate this topic. Is there anything that you want to give? Because I know you said that we might not make the whole hour and stuff like that. We're 40 minutes into it though.
Nicole had a question.
What was the question? I'll ask mine of her in a minute. Go for it.
Do you have any advice for how to remove the items in the brain dump that don't fit our MVV or goals, but you don't feel like they can be trashed?
Yeah, maybe it's its own bucket. You know, the things that you feel are still important, but they don't have a place in, you know, your other 2 or 3 buckets, right? I'm not saying like everything, if it doesn't align with those, it's just gone, because sometimes there are things that we still need to get done and they still need to happen. And that just then becomes its own bucket, kind of the miscellaneous things. And my experience is those miscellaneous things are usually the fast things. They're usually like the 5 minutes, I need to do this and I can do this and I can do this. And then you can just be done. Because it's usually the things that align with your mission, vision, values, and goals tend to be a little bit more in depth. They tend to be a little bit longer, a little bigger of a project, things that need more than, 5 or 15 minutes. So, yeah.
In everything that we own, we don't talk about anybody doing anything in our organization. You either own it or you don't own it. So the question is, who owns it? I think sometimes some of the things that overwhelm us, it's also worthwhile to say, is that something I'm supposed to own?
Mm-hmm.
It's not always something you're supposed to own.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes I'm not supposed to own picking up my kids' clothes and putting them in the hamper, but if you tell them 20 times, sometimes it's just easier to pick it up and put it in the hamper. Okay. I mean, I get it. Okay. But how do you change those conversations? How do you have amazing conversations rather than just allowing yourself to pick up everybody's laundry and put it in the basket and just accept the overwhelm?
Yeah.
My opinion.
Well, and I think also to a certain extent, it's to a certain extent, it's inevitable, right? We all get busy and we all have a lot of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No.
I think that was really my biggest epiphany in going through this, because I'm a big change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. If anything's frustrating or making me angry or I feel sad about something, I repeat that over and over in my head until I see the thing differently, even if it's like a tweak.
Yep.
So I did that with this and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. And then I said that to myself, seriously a dozen times probably. And I got to thinking, I'm feeling overwhelmed, yes, and it stinks right now and it's hard, but this is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and I'm okay if you, whatever direction you go with or any opinion you have on this, but I'm just going to ask it, is there are very few things that I have an interest in learning, doing, applying that that I can't actually see them being usable and applicable both in my personal and professional life. Who I am sometimes is who I am all the time. So I'm always looking for learnable skill sets that allow me just as likely to make me a better husband as they are to make me a better business owner. It's got to be that strong of a principle. I personally see your 3 steps, and if you don't mind just mentioning those 3 again to summarize them. And do you see this, because we haven't talked about the personal side as quite as much, is do you see this as applicable personally as you do professionally?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when you look at it from a personal standpoint,
Yep.
the buckets might not be quite as clear.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the overwhelm, at least for me, aren't going to be really task orientated like they are with the role.
Yep.
It's more feelings and helping others. And so not quite as easy to check off a list. Still though, absolutely all of these strategies, because I was not only overwhelmed in my role, I was also overwhelmed with life, life things. And so I lumped all of this together and I did it all together. Because at the end of the day, I am one person with one brain and one heart, and I was overwhelmed. So I had to look at everything. And it was still, yes, breathe. Breathe.
And let's call it out is, I mean, if we're in business, like you said, some things are task oriented, so it's easier to put a label on that bucket. Come on, let's just talk about marriage real quick. Come on, there is the emotional side of our marriage. To say that we don't deal with a financial side of our marriage, that we see eye to eye, that we have concerns, that we don't have concerns, all of those types of things. We have emotional sides. We have a financial side. We have a romantic side. We have I can go on, but you can name those buckets. So I love that this strategy, from what I was hearing you say, I'm already, just the way that I lean, every time that you're teaching, I'm automatically seeing how would that apply in my day-to-day life, in my marriage. And so I was already labeling those buckets. So you can label those buckets. They may not be as task oriented, but they're important. They're crazy important. And it might be one of those buckets is just, maybe it's communication. Maybe that's a major area. Okay. Maybe it is emotional. Maybe it is spiritual. Maybe it is financial. Maybe it is about the romance. Maybe it is about, and I can go on and on and on. But I love that. Could you list out your 3 things one more time, just to kind of help us?
Yes, for sure. Breathe. Deep breaths, breathe, step off the merry-go-round. Step out of isolation. And that's kind of a 2-part deal. Talk to someone. And do the brain dump. Shed light on what's in your head.
Okay.
And then organize that overwhelm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else? Any questions from anyone else? Ashley, Rebecca, Amy, Nicole the Great? Okay.
No, this was so valuable, Karen. Thank you so much.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. I love it. I needed this.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're
Ashley,
welcome.
Since you spoke up, can I just ask you, what are one of the 2 or 3 things that she just said that are really resonating with you? And it might be the whole concept, but is there 1 or 2 things that just kind of pop out for you naturally?
Well, I mean, like just remembering I'm not the only one that's overwhelmed. Everybody's overwhelmed, right?
Good
And
point.
so that really resonated with me because it's like I feel like, I have an urgency to want to get it done right then and there. And that's when it becomes super overwhelming. So it's like prioritize, organize. Yes. So thank you very much for this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you bet.
I love that. Amy, Rebecca, anything that even just one thing that kind of popped out for you?
I like the bucket concept. I can see that I'm already doing that mentally, but I need to write it down. Because I'm like, I shift things in my mind and say, okay, I can just do that later. But they're still there and they're still nagging.
Yep.
And what I do when I feel overwhelmed is I just shut down.
Okay.
And somebody said isolate. Well, I think the second time you went through the list, Karen, you said, stop isolating, talk to somebody. And I'm like, I do that. I shut down and I don't say to anybody other than my husband, my poor husband. He's like, therapist in chief. But I'm talking about like a coworker, someone I'm working with, I need to say, hey, I'm not going to be available tomorrow afternoon because I'm just feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because in the workplace, I feel like I might face judgment. I might be deemed that, oh, she can't handle it. So if another opportunity comes, I don't want to give it to her because she's overwhelmed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you got to establish like trust, trust your coworkers, trust your environment, that you could be honest and say, okay, I got to have a half day, a day or whatever. And, I'm just feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's stepping out big time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was going to say the same. I think for me, I'd always stopped at the brain dumping part instead and not organized it. And then in that way, my brain dump list almost added to the overwhelm because now I just see this massive list of stuff that's completely discombobulated. And I'm like, where do I even start? What do I even do? Yeah. So just taking it to the next step and organizing it into the buckets, I feel like that's going to change everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy, anything from you?
Yeah, I actually really loved the whole mindset shift of just knowing like, okay, I'm all of this is coming at me because I am capable, I am knowledgeable, and people do rely on me and they know that I can get it done rather than, that shift of like, please stop. Stop it from coming at me.
100%. That resonated with me the way she said that as well.
Yeah.
And I've heard that before. There was something in the way you delivered that, Karen, that it clicked for me on a different level than it has before. So I appreciated that. The last thing that I will share that I do want to mention, because you mentioned when we talk about the 5x5, because everybody knows I always go back to the 5x5. That's my core. Okay. And if you ask Dina, my hot wife, I'm 51 this year, and she was my high school sweetheart. So that poor girl has heard this forever because I've been saying this since high school. Those 5 words. So peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion. The one that a lot of people miss is the joy one, because they think they're saying you need to be aware, self-aware of what brings you more joy and do more of it. It's actually exactly opposite of that. And it's been opposite of that for years for me. It is to be self-aware of what is stealing our joy. It's not about what's bringing me more joy. It's about being self-aware, honest, and labeling, naming it, as Karen was talking about, what is stealing my joy right now. And if we look at the joy that we have in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, whatever you want to say, and what is stealing our joy, if all I do is focus on what brings me more joy and I try to figure out how to do more of that, I am more overwhelmed. Because you just told me to find what brings me joy and do more of it. You just asked me to do more of anything. I am overwhelmed right now. Don't ask me to do more of anything, okay? But if I realize and I name and I discover what is stealing my joy and I actually take care of that, what's left over? Just the joy. Okay. The joy that probably already existed there and I was not naming and I was not giving credit for and I was not seeing as much because I was letting what steals my joy overwhelm me. So that is where the joy factor comes in for me, is when you said name it, label it, get it out of your head, brain dump it. What I am doing is I am naming what is stealing my joy. Don't tell me to find more joy and then do more of it. I'm overwhelmed right now. If you use the word more with me, I'm going to punch you in the neck. Okay. Now that's just me when I'm in my overwhelm right then. Don't ask me to do more right now. If anything, help me get rid of something. And that brain dump and then categorizing and then systematizing how to get rid of those things. I loved all that. Okay. Well, we are very grateful, Karen. Very, 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 very grateful. Anybody go ahead and go to our group, the Facebook group, and you will see that we're going to put Karen's landing page on there. You can, and that'll allow you to reach out to her. Chrissy, the amazing Chrissy, is actually going to edit this webinar next week, and we'll get this reposted. It'll be in the group. It'll be on Facebook, and then she's also going to go ahead and edit all the notes and put that in a PDF downloadable tool for everybody. I love that. And I took a bunch of notes myself, but now I want Karen's notes. So I'm going to be getting those as well. So Karen, thank you. I know you're only going to take a few coaching clients, and I know we weren't supposed to tell anybody that you were going to be coaching with Cultivate Wins, but a few people knew already, and you've already taken some coaching clients. So I know you've only got whatever it is, 1 or 2, max 3 spots left open. But if anybody wants to reach out to her, do it anyways. Even just to talk to her for 15, 20 minutes, I believe is going to bring value to your life, both personally and professionally. That's my feeling, because I've known her for a while, and that's been my experience. So that's what I'm telling you. Karen, thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This was equally as impactful and powerful for me. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Everybody have a beautiful long weekend. And as my wife told me last night, David, there is a holiday and it is a long weekend, and you will take a long weekend, which I guess I did not realize it was a long weekend. So now I know. So everyone, please take your long weekend. Do not work. Talk to you later. Bye.